Hello, everyone. It is me, Dominic Constance, your host of the Dominic Constance podcast. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm doing great right now. I'm actually like bubbly. I feel really good, and I think part of that's because I just had a fantastic distance lunch with a friend in a park. Super sunny, sitting in some shade. It wasn't too hot out. We had a nice breeze. I had an Impossible Burger, which is a fantastic burger. And we had a very just deep conversation about what we've been doing with our lives in the past couple of months, because we just hadn't been talking and we've been meaning to see each other for a while. And perhaps it was such a great conversation because it's in contrast with just a horrible conversation I had last night. And it was a conversation which was quite stupid, full of unnecessary negativity, unnecessary targeting at people and their opinions on certain things. And after having the conversation, I just realized how stupid that conversation was. And overall, there are much bigger problems in the world that were happening outside of said conversation, and I felt very stupid, and I felt like I had wasted many minutes of my life, which I easily could have been just creating and growing, and I didn't grow from that conversation. In a way I did, because it reminded me to never have those types of conversations. If I find myself in one, then just avoid it, because I simply do not have the hours in the day or years in my life to be wasting my time talking about stupid things. What was the stupid thing, you might ask? We were talking about Instagram and the point of what the purpose of someone's account is. And for those of you who follow me on both my accounts, Dominic Constance and 1-800-Party Hotline, you've kind of probably figured out by now that neither of them exactly have a point. Maybe one is kind of centered around music. The other one is just kind of my more general things. But otherwise, I'm just more of an observer. And I'm perfectly okay with that. Of course, I've been putting out more recently, and I enjoy that. I do find myself to be a like monger, and seeing how people respond and looking at the insights just because stats are interesting to me. But that's all very pointless in the scope of things, and it will mean nothing in the next couple of weeks, you know. I wrote something recently. Here, let me grab it. Just grabbing my notebook here. I had written something quite recently. It was, I think I wrote it back in May, and it went something like this. Oh, yeah. Dominic's will, if death by COVID-19. I wrote it back in May. And let's see. Oh, yeah. I said, please laugh and enjoy yourselves at my funeral. Crying is a waste of time. We all die. Without this possibility, you are technically not alive. A funeral is a day. Death is an eternity. And with that said, I find many people going through life quite oblivious to their situations and the stupidity of the problems that they think they have, and bitching and moaning about certain things which don't matter at all, will not affect the length of your life, and are only wasting the minutes you have until death. You know, I mean, people need to go through life knowing that they will die. Because I'm not seeing that right now, especially with COVID-19. You know, young people especially, walking around as if they're going to live forever. And I personally would like to live for as long as I want. well, I don't know how long I want to live, but I would like to live for an extended period of time in order to enjoy things and learn things. And people are putting themselves and other people at risk, and that is absolutely irresponsible. And I really disturbs me, because no one is indestructible. Sorry, no one is immortal. We can be hurt, and we will die eventually. And in a way, this isn't a call to say live as if every day is your last, because you need days. You need to be able to waste time. If you don't waste time, then you're not having fun. I love wasting time all the time. There's some conversations I have that are about such stupid things that I would rather be sitting in a chair staring at a wall doing nothing, which is essentially all you're doing with social media. I retain no information staring at my screen, because your attention span is shortened by such a large degree when you're staring at a screen, Like, I find myself just doing those promo posts I've been doing of, this person's doing this person's doing this, and boom, immediately forgot what I was supposed to be doing, and I'm scrolling through whoever's feed. And I have a problem with that, and I have a major problem with social media companies designing their product so that it is addictive. And in a way, I find there is somewhat of an injustice, some way an intellectual monopoly, but at the same time, that's how they get their money. And who else, what company wouldn't want you to be addicted to their product? Cigarette companies do it all the time. Pharmaceutical companies do that with opioids. Everyone does it. But overall, I want everyone to live their life as if they have a terminal illness. Because at the end of the day, we all have a terminal illness, and that is simply the fact that you peak at 32 and then the rest is just counting your days till death. That's extremely morbid. I don't want anyone to see this as morbid, and I don't want this to be morbid. This isn't morbid. This is a call to simply, get your head out of the gutter of your black mirror, which is your phone, and reassess what truly is important to you and to those who you love. Because sooner or later, they won't be there. Your little sibling who annoys you and goes in your room and looks through your shit. Well, someday you're going to be off at college and you may not see them, and you're going to come back and they're going to be a whole new person. And you may miss those aspects of them that you loved so much when they were little. So we can't take those moments for granted. We can't take those people for granted. Even though they may annoy us with their petty bullshit. And overall, I think we need to just diminish petty bullshit from our lives. Whether that's siblings looking through your room, or I don't know. Practically everything in America is, well, actually no. There's some real problems. There's plenty of things that aren't petty bullshit, but in Silicon Valley, especially, we can find petty bullshit everywhere. When there's truly real issues at hand. For instance, there's probably a good amount of Gen Zs like myself out there who aren't even registered to vote. You need to vote. Please vote, because if you don't, we're gonna have some problems. That's a problem. Anyway, I should probably let you get on to the podcast, because we got a really good guest today, and she's one of my favorite people and one of my favorite singers. And if you're friends with her, that's probably why you're listening to this podcast. And she drops some really great knowledge. And I envy her so much as an artist, as a singer. She's incredible. So if everyone can open their hearts and live a little bit more and truly understand what's important in life, open your hearts and your arms and give a warm welcome to Annika Park. I'm recording right now.
I am too.
Are you recording right now? That is fantastic. All right, guys. Well, today we have a fantastic podcast. We have the late, great, awesome, possum, yeedle, yoodle, meedle, maddle. You know her. Actually, you don't know her. I know her, though. The lovely, awesome Annika Park. Woo!
Thanks for having me. This is cool.
Yeah, totally. So some of you may know Annika. She has been featured on the most recent Christopher Normann album, Berries. That is what she is most known for. If you are a SoundCloud goer and you listen to very oddly specific channels, you've definitely seen her featured on the Woodside High School audio production SoundCloud, where she is featured on basically every vocal song. And she is rightfully so, because she's such a great singer. So to start things off, Annika, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Still in quarantine like everyone else, but it's not bad. I've been trying to fill my time, but it's really not terrible. All good so far.
That's great. That's really cool. So part of the reason why I wanted you on this podcast is because this podcast is primarily about music, kind of deeper insights into music, and I kind of wanted to come to you to talk a bit about your musical journey, which we are forever going through, where you are right now, and where you want to go. Because at this relatively early, you are doing fantastic. So my first question kind of for you is, where did it all start? When did music plant its seed into your life?
Well, I guess like early childhood, like most people like me. I started out with piano lessons as a little kid. I hated it very much.
Nice.
But my parents made me do it. They also made my older sister do it, but they also let her quit. They didn't let me quit. But that's where I learned like sheet music, theory, basics. And then I think I joined my first choir in second grade.
Wow.
It was just
that early.
Yeah.
So what was that with?
What was it like?
What was that? Was that through a school, or was it a private?
It wasn't through the school.
choir?
It was a separate little organization that was kind of just local. And then my friend was doing it, so I joined in. That's because we didn't have a choir at our school yet until I was in third grade. Yeah.
Okay.
So then I joined my school choir for third through fifth grade, which was pretty cool. Weird selections of songs, like really weird, but they were fun. And
so you'd be like doing like a hip hop rendition of like, "Oh holy night, the stars are brightly shining." Because for some reason we have so many performances around the holidays.
Yeah.
And I'm just losing my shit.
we did a ton of, obviously Christmassy stuff in like the first choir that I was in, but at my school, it was a private school, but it wasn't Christian. And so we literally did pop songs. We did some Beyonce.
Nice.
I think we did Phantom of the Opera, Les Mis, and Kids in America, Olivia Wilde.
Kids in
like
America.
literally the weirdest selection, but it was good. It kind of taught me how to sing with other people. But then both of the teachers left before I went into middle school. So that's when I started with a vocal coach, so private teaching.
Oh, wow.
And then I've been doing that ever since. And then I joined the high school choir.
That is awesome. So you decided to just take matters into your own hands, really?
Sort of. I guess so. I auditioned for the choir again going into middle school, but the new teachers I just didn't vibe with, I guess.
That's really important.
So, yeah, but I started out with a vocal coach, and I've been going with her ever since.
Nice. Wow. You've been singing a while.
Yeah.
So would you say you're classically trained in that sense?
I don't think so. I never claimed that before.
I mean, because based on the piano and the theory background, even though you were very, very young, I mean,
right.
That somewhat qualifies as classically trained.
I guess. I never really thought about it. I just never associated myself with it because it wasn't like, I guess it just didn't feel like hardcore training. It was just like an after school activity for me or a hobby. Oh. So, but I guess you could say that. I never really thought about it that way though.
Nice. So going through middle school, you've dropped out of, well, you didn't drop out. You just didn't vibe. You didn't vibe because dropout's a different connotation. Were you ever trying to pursue a band, pursue any recording, meeting up with other vocalists, maybe joining a private choir? Was that on the table?
I've considered joining a private choir in the recent years, just because I have a friend who's in a private choir, and it would be very different than obviously the school choir. But I guess the middle school that I went to the same school for all of elementary and middle school, and it was really small. We didn't have like a huge music department, or we didn't have a jazz band or a marching band or a sports team or a mascot or anything, or an auditorium.
Where'd you go?
I went to a small French Mandarin immersion school in Palo Alto called the International School of the Peninsula.
All the way up until 8th grade?
Yeah. So for 11 years.
Wow. One school for 11 years?
Yeah. And
so were there like 10 kids in your
There were
grade?
9 kids in my class. There were 35 kids in the graduating class.
What?
Yeah.
That's fucking that's like, so like, what does that do? That does something to someone's, like, how do you jump from like 9 people to like, oh, I'm in 500 kids in my class? Going from middle school to high school was like definitely the biggest transition of my life, because for that exact reason. But I basically had a 180 personality change. Wow. Because I remember the first time I met you, you kind of had like grungy look, kind of fishnets.
Yeah, I was pretty emo. I was very emo in middle school. And that kind of drifted into freshman year. God, it was so bad. Oh my God. But like,
we all did it.
Yeah, I had like a huge personality switch because when I was in middle school, I was very overconfident. I was very bold and loud.
Me too.
And I was
not the loudness, but I was really overly confident, and that came into high school with me.
Oh God. It's because like, you know, I'm there for like 11 years. I know everyone there. I had the same teachers for all of middle school. And so I wasn't afraid to like start yelling at a teacher. That kind of stuff.
Shit.
So like,
wow.
I wasn't a great student. I was also very angry all the time, but like, so going into high school, no one from my middle school came here. So the only person I knew at Woodside was my sister, who was 2 years older than me. Gee. So basically, I just went from like being super confident to like not talking to anyone ever. I literally didn't talk to anyone for like the first 2 months of school.
Wow.
But I was also emo.
That's crazy. Well, you got to get into the vibe. You know, you got to sit in the corner, scribble 666 on everything.
Yep. So
I remember one time we were playing Kahoot and all the names popped up. And our geometry teacher was like, "Who is atheist?"
oh my God.
Like that was like my introduction.
Oh
to
my
you.
God. That's terrible. Oh my God, that's awful. Jesus.
But then I remember later that year, I'm not going to say her name, but she was like, she like, I don't know why I saw this, but like she like wrote you a note and she was like 666 Hail Satan.
Yeah, she was like rock on.
Oh
my God,
yeah.
I love her.
Man. Quick shout out to my sophomore year geometry teacher, coolest teacher.
Yeah, for sure.
Ever. Wow. So, to change topics a bit, you were reached out to by our friend Chris to record on his album. And this wasn't the first. Was this the first thing you've ever done with Chris?
Yeah.
Wow. And it went that smoothly. So you two are both, because I've worked in a studio setting with you. I've worked with Chris for years, and I know you two both have kind of this perfectionist attitude when going towards things. What was that like working with Chris on? Because you just did one song. It's my personal favorite song on the album.
Oh, thank you.
There's a reason it was so perfect.
Well, I think part of it like made it relatively easy just because we both kind of knew immediately when we heard it and we were kind of on the same page with everything. Like, no, let's redo that. So like,
nice.
Obviously it took a long time, but we were kind of on the same page for a lot of it. So it wasn't too bad. And it's not like it kind of made it easier because we both know that like if this happened, we wouldn't want it. Like I would do a take and he would immediately like delete it.
Oh yeah. And that annoys the shit out of me because I'm not a perfectionist. Because like I'm in there, I'm just trying to vibe. We've just chilled out. It's like maybe 1 a.m. or something, and Chris is here nagging me about getting a bass line to not have like this weird buzz in it. And it's like, dude, you're going to EQ the shit out of it. That buzz isn't going to be there. Like,
yeah.
But he just wants it perfect. Yeah, that's amazing. Like, it's amazing. When Chris first showed me that idea, like I was just like, wow, that shits on anything I've ever made with him. And just like the God, it was so. I was just vibing to it before I called you just to get
cool.
The moon. But so Chris wrote that song, and asked you to sing in a specific way. Are you ever writing songs?
I have tried several times, and never really works out the way I want it to. But not coincidentally, so I'm doing 5-week this summer, and
at Berklee College of Music.
Yeah, and
yes,
the elective that I chose was a songwriting workshop, so hopefully I'll get better at it. Because I'm not too great at it so far. I can do poetry, which is very similar, but maybe it's just melodies I can't do.
Well, I mean, because it's you're a very inverse. You are an inverse recording artist in that you have the studio part down perfectly. And this is another thing that I because I talk about you, I brag about you to other people. Like, yo, I know Annika Park, okay. And the thing that I tell people about you is that you practice, which is something that a vocal, which I can't stress enough, is vocalists don't practice. And it's the weirdest thing ever. And do you approach the voice the same way how do I frame this? Is approaching the voice the same way as any other instrument to you?
I guess sort of. Well, I guess the only other instrument that I'm used to is piano. And I was never really good with piano. And that always took like hours and hours for me to get down. I guess, but like it's obviously different with voice, because voice you don't need to. It's kind of easier. Voice is basically the easiest instrument.
Easy for you.
It's easier to control. If
really,
I guess
really.
Okay.
Are you sure?
In my experience,
because the piano, it doesn't change, because you can tap it. It's not going anywhere.
That is true. I guess I'm just not good with piano. I just don't have any hand-eye coordination. Yeah. But I don't know, the way I approach practicing with vocals, I do a lot of it normally just by ear. Like if I have to learn a song for something, having the sheet music is always helpful, but doing it by ear is usually how I go, just because I'm able to do it, and I don't have to like read it off and learn it from the piano.
And that's a fantastic skill in any musical situation. Just training your ear.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But I don't know. I guess I also play ukulele. I was a ukulele girl for a while.
Oh God. Were you doing any like ukulele rap covers?
Oh God, I would never rap, but I did do 21 Pilots for sure. Cause I know it's shameful, but
that's okay.
It's okay. It's gone. It's over with.
It's dead. You just kind of waterboarded that self and then just poured gasoline on it and burned it.
Furthest corner
That's
of my
mind. Way to go. Yeah, that's what I did with all my Kurt Cobain stuff. / Nirvana and Sublime. Played a lot of Sublime and Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Nice.
Even though I have a perfectly happy life. And for some reason, when you're 12, you have to make everything a living hell for yourself. Anyway. Well, so what made me realize that you practice is I think you sent me a video. It was like on Snapchat or something. It was some video of you working on the harmonies of...
That was
I think it was Killing Me Softly was with his song.
It might have been that.
Just like in your studio.
It was probably, I think I know what you're talking about. I think it was practice files for the choir.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that's...
No, I swear it was a song that you were recording though.
It might have been Killing Me Softly.
But so do you practice before you go into the studio? Like,
yes.
Yeah, because I don't know anyone else who does it. Like at your progression in where you are with your, like, no one for some reason seems to do that.
I think the reason I do it, and the reason I like make sure I do it and make sure I get everything super solid before I go into the studio, partly is because I don't want to waste time
Absolutely.
making mistakes, because you don't get much time in there in general.
I mean, and so like, well, to talk about that, I'm actually going to have Kaufman on here probably next week.
Cool.
And our fantastic audio production, CTE Digital Music Production at Woodside High School, Raphael Kaufman. He'll be on here next week. Anyway, we were just like, I'm going to be talking to him about like time of he teaches a class, which, and when we're talking about studio, we're talking about this class. And sometimes to teach this class, you can't teach it in schools. you have to have 8 hours in a day to learn this sort of thing at this level and to pull off some of these recordings that we're trying to do. We're trying to do 5 hours of work in the space of 1.5 hours. Yeah. And that sometimes can work out, sometimes it can't, but it sometimes can feel like we just can't internalize, you know, some of that learning, and which is why you have to do it outside.
Yeah.
You know. And I think that's a fantastic indicator of, I think, your drive for perfection. You know?
Yeah.
It really is. Because I mean, I remember I was sitting in the studio while you were doing Killing Me Softly with his song, and I was just like, is she just making these up as she goes along? Because like that's what I do. Like when my home, just like, oh yeah, I'm just kind of like, oh, maybe I'll sing the fifth. Maybe I'll sing the minor second, you know, just some shit like that.
No, yeah. For harmonies especially, I plan them all out way ahead of time. And I make sure I get them down. Also because I have a fear of messing up in front of people. And I really hate embarrassing myself. So I try to get them down as best as I can before going in, just so that I know I'll be able to get them right and I have them practiced. Wow. Usually, a lot of the times this past year, there were kind of a lot of projects I was asked to sing on kind of very spontaneously.
Yeah, I remember those.
And out of the blue. And so like I'd have a day or two to prepare for them.
A day or two? That's a lifetime.
But okay, I guess it is. But like I'd go in, so I usually went into Kaufman's room before school started. I get to school about 40 minutes early and just hang out in the I-wing.
What?
Like for all the days that I was at my mom's house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but like
she lives much closer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Cool. But then for the school year, I stayed at my mom's house for the weekdays. So basically every day. And that's just, I didn't even have to. I just took the early bus and I would just hang out in there. And if I had to, I would just practice in the studio, like day of, for the song that I had to record later that afternoon.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, in turn, like that is extreme dedication, because for me, just getting like 20 minutes before, because I can barely fucking roll out of bed before 7:20, like I have to. But you know, now that I think about it, that's the most logical way to go about anything if you want to get it right. And I should probably stop sitting around wondering why, you know, I'm out here trying to do teenage fantasy, which I did. So quick backstory. We did a cover of Georgia Smith's Teenage Fantasy. Fucking love that song. It was never finished, sadly. But I practiced the hell out of that. And for practicing the hell out of it, that means, yeah, like 1 or 2 days.
Yeah. I'm still pretty bummed we never actually finished that.
Oh, I fucking
and we like planned to do a whole album that year. Or at least Kaufman did.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you can never say you're doing an album, but then he like really tried to like step it up.
Yeah.
This past year and be like, we gotta like get through and do all
the
this
schedule,
and, like
for the studio,
which you can't do. That's not how creativity works, sadly. But that's what we're forced to do.
Yeah.
You know, there were some days I wish like I just took like 2 periods of audio production.
Definitely.
Because at the end of the day, it's a double day sport.
Yeah.
You know, trying to learn all that.
There were days when I would go in the morning, have about half an hour, and then I'd come in at brunch, and I'd come in at lunch, or I'd come in at brunch, have class, continue throughout lunch, and then come back after school.
Oh my God.
Like working on one project or something.
Wow.
Just because, I don't know. There's also, it's just, that room is just like,
it's so
vibey.
I need to live in there. I wish he had couches. They'd probably
that would
get
be
trashed,
great.
though.
Yeah.
He needs like a leather couch in the actual studio.
Yeah.
so that people aren't just rolling around in chairs bumping into the expensive compressors.
Yeah.
But God, looking back, because like I was at graduation, I was at drive-through graduation, and Kaufman was actually crying. I saw you crying, Mr. Kaufman. Well, because Gavin and I was right behind Gavin, and he was driving, and Mr. Kaufman kind of was crying, and I was like, wow, I took every minute of being in that class for granted. I took every single minute, like no matter how much I was trying to learn and trying to respect the craft and trying to use the studio as much as I could and appreciate the studio as much as I could. I took it for granted. And I try not to regret things, but I'm okay with letting myself regret that.
Yeah.
Because I'm for a high school class, you're not going to run into that. That was a high school class, and I can't fucking believe that happened. This was 1 in a million, and I'm so glad that I showed up right when it was happening.
Yeah. It's so great. Yeah, I'm worried about
but you're taking advantage of it, and that is fucking awesome. So
Thank you.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
I'm worried about next year. There's some, like, the school is saying
that we're just not going to start school.
Part of it is that. Part of it is they're saying that some electives might need to get cut.
Oh, fuck.
Which is real scary. Because
those electives are the reason kids show up to school, and which is something I'm going to be probably talking with Raphael, because he's not my teacher anymore, about is like your job as a teacher of such a unique class about something so interesting as an elective is that your job is not to be a teacher. Your job is to be an inspirational mentor, is to be a role model of what you aren't taught in the textbooks. And I think it's fucking insane, because we can call English class and, your BC calculus class essential, which they are. But at the end of the day, the class that makes a kid just want to fucking show up to school is the essential class for me, in my opinion.
No, yeah, I agree. So I don't know how it's going to be next year. I think they're making a decision soon, but I don't know.
Wow. Well, for UC Santa Cruz, which is where it will be going, they will probably, it's going to be kind of along those lines of, you're just going to be taking these classes, probably virtual.
Yeah.
No one's staying on campus unless you have this, and criteria that nobody has.
Right.
So that's really too bad.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that 5-week course at Berkeley, super cool. And one thing I want to ask you about is, are you interested in anything else? Like, because we're friends, but the reason we're friends is because we've connected at a spiritual level, which we didn't even have to do the whole like, what's your zodiac sign? When were you born? Where were you born? Does this mole look weird? Like that sort of thing. Like this, because the second you vibe, like there's so many people who I don't even know their names in our audio production class. Like I didn't know half the kids' names because I'm just such a piece of shit. And but the thing is I have this spiritual, internal, close connection with them because I played music with them. They showed me their art that they put their heart into. And you're showing me, a stranger, a part of your heart. Like I have to be friends with you now. So anyway, I'm not saying like we haven't vibed and like chilled out in other times, but we vibe partly because of the music. So
Do you have any other interests other than music?
I have definitely thought about that before.
Well, because you have to decide now. Right now.
Yeah.
What are you doing for the rest of your life right now?
That's a good question. Really, everything that I've thought of when I've had this conversation with myself,
you have to have it. All the time.
Yeah. I realized that like my only main passion has been music. Like, I've never been a math person. I've never been a science person. I can do them fine, but like, I don't enjoy them. And so I think I'm actually going to go into music, but I know that the industry is just such a huge risk, especially as like a performer. So I've like kind of carved out a couple different paths that I'm deeply considering. I think there's about 4. One of them is like performance, being a singer. I'm considering music business, going into the industry, music education, being a music teacher, and also music therapy.
Oh, that's a beautiful one.
So
that's a big one now.
Yeah. Because I've always kind of, I go to therapy like a lot of people.
You should. You have to.
And so like
to be a Gen Z kind of meeting that requirement is going to therapy.
Yeah. So and just growing up in my middle school, kind of like I've always been the friend therapist that people would go to, not by choice, but like I enjoy talking about it and I enjoy learning about it. So I think that's kind of my main one for now, at least at what I'm thinking about.
Nice. I mean, I'm glad you're just keeping music close at heart because I'm personally, going off to college, I'm having that dilemma because I'm going as a biochem, which is balls to the wall. Like people are like, fuck, you're doing biochem. And I'm just like, what? It's just biology and chemistry, which are, not very easy. And, I'm probably going to change. But I'm having that conversation with myself of, am I doing this because I want a safety net and because I want to appease anybody? Or am I doing this because this is what I really want to do? And out of that, with a biochem, I would probably go into more interesting things, such as probably studying psychoactive drugs, studying various, alternative medicines and, kind of down that path. I'm super interested in that. But yeah, I haven't really been able to make that connection of like, wow, how would I meld a biochemistry and music? That's not exactly a career path. But God, that therapy, because I've been really also very heavily considering psychology. Oh, well, I could come at it from a biochemical standpoint. There's something there, but I never thought about the music and therapy. And my brother's a therapist. He's private. He has his own private practice now. He was working for the county. And I'm probably going to have him on this podcast to talk about his life as a therapist, which is super inspirational. Just like, even the times that he was in grad school, living at home, just kind of like watching what he was doing. It just seems like such a really interesting career path.
Yeah.
So God, that's awesome that you can like meld, that you're like just trying to keep music involved in that. Do you feel like you're trying to appease the money, or because I feel like we all have to at some point?
I think in a way, yeah. I think like there's definitely a safety net factor to it. Yeah. Just because the music industry is like so crazy. Definitely. But also like, there's other aspects to it. I don't think I would entirely love a career as a performer. Lots of pressure.
Totally.
I'm not awesome with pressure. So like, I don't know. And also like being huge and mainstream is kind of a fear of mine.
Really?
A little bit. I guess part of it is just like being afraid that like all eyes are on you. And like doing one wrong thing and then you're just done for.
Absolutely.
So, and then also I guess I've just had an interest in psychology and other stuff. So music therapy seems to be a pretty good mixture of it. And I knew that if I didn't do something that had to do with music, I probably wouldn't enjoy it very much.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I am very blessed that by whatever higher power there is, I feel very just grateful that I've gotten to have the insight into this is what a shitty desk job looks like. So like for me, I've like basically am standing at a crossroads. Here's your shitty desk job. And the way I saw into that realm was I did an internship at one of the most prestigious laboratories in oceanography laboratories in marine science. Excuse me, I just had a little bit of CBD. Marine science laboratories in North America. And I saw this is like people's dream jobs, going out on the boats, diving, sending out cool vessels, studying the big questions. But their jobs were like any other desk job. You show up, you drink your coffee, you sit at a desk, you go to boring meetings. Sure, you have an ocean view and that's really cool. But it's that, I was there for 10 weeks and those 10 weeks felt like the world around me stopped. Time would fly so quickly. I didn't even see the sun all day. I don't even know if I had lunch. Like it just like, I was just an intern. I wasn't doing anything. And even that, and maybe I'll grow into it and maybe I'll find myself in that kind of situation. And that was horrible. And that scared the shit out of me. Anyway, that's my left-hand path. And my right-hand path is music, right? And I have the band, the Indigo Rhythm Section. And of course, I'm not living off of music. I'm sitting here down in Watsonville with an ocean view right now. I'm doing great because I'm supported by my parents. But working in that kind of environment, having a little peephole into this is what a professional instrumentalist, at least, is doing. You're losing sleep. You may have just had 2 gigs in one day. Sometimes you're not getting paid by the house. It's just tipping. Here's your $60. Try living with that.
Right.
Who likes live music anymore? Can you go to that studio session and really have the chops of a studio musician and read that kind of thing and work under that sort of thing? And I just like, I've looked into both of these hellholes in some way. And I feel like, wow, there's no escape, and which is why, okay, well, biochem, psychedelic drugs, whatever, that's interesting. I'm interesting. My life is interesting. I'm not sitting at a desk. Like perhaps it's just the sitting at a desk and losing sleep are the 2 biggest fears in my life. But yeah, I'm at that dilemma right now. And thank you for letting me ramble like that. But yeah, so that's insane. But is music school, I'm asking because I was asking you about this program, is music school such as Berkeley or any other music program specifically on your radar?
Yeah. A ton. I'm looking at a ton of schools right now. Not all of them are specifically music schools. Actually, very few of them are specifically music schools. They just have like good music departments. There's a long list.
That's a big one.
There's a long list. I think part of the reason I wanted to do Berkeley 5 Week is that one of the purposes is to like mimic school life there. Obviously it's not going to be the same anymore. I was going to be like in Boston for 5 weeks. staying in the dorms and stuff like that and going to classes. But
That actually sounds like I could barely do 2. Like away from home.
yeah, I really don't know how it's going to be online. Their online schooling is good. I know that just because a lot of students have to do that. So it should be fine. But one of the reasons I wanted to do 5-week is because it mimicked the school life, and I wanted to see if I would like it at a music school specifically.
Yeah.
Totally. Rather than having, other options at a liberal arts school or something.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But there's a long list. Too long to talk about, but...
That's cool. That's cool. Well, God, I feel like that is absolutely... I feel like what I'm being faced with is do what you know is right or do what you want to do.
Right.
And I've been running into this very strange dilemma in that, I don't, I'm a bit of a shy person in certain situations, surprisingly. And, it's, for me, I do have trouble just basically asking for help and to just say, oh, this is actually what I want. I don't follow a homeostasis per se.
Right.
And which gets me in trouble all the time. And finally, in the past years, I've come to the realization, it's okay to say, I want this for my own benefit because that's the natural human thing to do. That just seemed like a selfish and dumb thing. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't be that. And now here I am with do what you want or do what is right. And at the same time, doing what's right could easily end me up in 20 years on some sort of existential problems because I took the wrong path, and which I think probably happens to everyone at some point. That's why it's commonly called a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Luckily, sort of in the situation that I'm in, not really yet in, but for me, with what I like or what I want and what is right, have a okay overlap. So I think it's important to try to find a middle ground. 'Cause I guess you just have to compromise in the sense.
Oh, totally.
You're going to have to give up some stuff, but you can still do if you choose the what is right path, I don't think that entirely means you have to give up the what you want path.
Oh, yeah.
So
definitely.
I think just at least trying to find a compromise and a middle ground is what gets people the furthest, in my opinion. From what I know very little. So that's what I'm assuming.
Totally. Man, what do I do? What do you think I should do? No, I'm just kidding. Man. That's a fantastic point. I don't know how to overlap psychedelic drugs, music together.
Well,
psychedelic drugs, biochemistry, music.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, actually, maybe the psychedelic drugs and the music could be coordinated together. But that's really cool. Do you have anything else to say?
I don't think so.
Have we run out of things to say, and now we will forever have awkward silences?
I don't think I have anything else.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, sorry. This is how most of them end.
It's cool.
Anyway, well, hey, thank you so much for showing up. And wait, was there something else I wanted to ask you? Music writing. Oh yeah, I was gonna play a little bit of your work.
Oh, wow.
If you don't mind, if you would like to send some poetry, I'd love to read it.
Oh, my God. I don't think I've written anything since last year.
Oh really?
So.
Cool. Well, now's a great time to write. You have plenty of time to meditate and think.
Sorry?
You have plenty of time to meditate and think.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to it at some point.
Yeah, totally. Oh, also, I was just thinking, you are the first woman on the podcast. So snaps to that. It's only been Chris and Max.
Cool.
So far, so you're the third. You are part of a test run. This is actually the most successful podcast because the first one I did with Chris, FL crashed.
Oh my God.
And we lost all of his side, but we got mine. So it's just me talking to no one. So I was actually just going to send my part to Chris and then just have him like speak to it.
Sure.
And then, yeah, Max's went fine, except his recording was really quiet. So now I'm going to have to turn it up a bunch.
I'm a little nervous. Mine might be quiet, but I'll check it right after.
Yeah, that's what normalization and compression is for. It's just to bump the shit out of everything.
Cool.
Well, anyway, Annika, thank you very much. And if you want to get a free hydro flask, use offer code Dominic to get 0% off your next thermo
Sweet.
Vessel hydro flask.
Great. Definitely looking for a new hydro.
And that is a wrap. Thank you to everyone who has tuned into this podcast and everyone who has decided to follow me on Instagram or whichever one of my Instagrams or Twitter at Thoughts of Dommy with an I. And once again, thank you to Annika Park for joining us, taking her precious time. You can check her out on Christopher Normann's new album's Berries. She is featured in the final track of the album and the second to last track of the album called My World. She has a very beautiful voice and she has a bright, bright future ahead of her. As I'd said at the beginning of the podcast, take some time and be mindful of what you are doing. We cannot walk around blindly, finding ourselves being annoyed by the smallest inconveniences which truly do not matter. Ask yourself what is important. When you look at your phone, ask yourself why you're looking at it. Because we have many other things we could be doing. And this is not to shame you. You deserve to sit down with your phone and enjoy yourself. You deserve to be connected and feel included on a social platform. However, there are other things. There are more important things. I just don't want you to waste your time. We all got things to do. We all got places to be. So don't waste anybody else's time either. So everyone, have a great day. And thank you for listening to the Dominant Constance podcast. Also, one last thing. At the beginning of the podcast, I made it sound like I wasn't registered to vote. I am registered to vote, as should you if you are over the age of 18. We got a fucking tyrant in office, and honestly, lesser of two evils for president. That's who I'm voting for. I don't give a fuck. Fuck Donald Trump, and you gotta vote, all right?